Okay. So this is Brendaline. Brendaline. I always mispronounce her name. July 28th, debrief. So Brendaline is, let's see, she has one child. She's 20, she's probably anywhere from 22 to 24 now, depending. Her status is free. She was labor and sex trafficked, but she is currently free. She, I believe, was trafficked for over 15 years. So she was very young, right? Let me see. Let me get her right here. Yeah.
And I think she did get some medical aid.
I don't. Brendaline also never really was educated. Seraphin has been teaching her basic grammar and everything else and how to read and write. She's doing very well with that. That I know. Let's see. Hold on. One child. I can't remember if we've supported her medically. I don't believe we have.
Okay.
She was definitely a current trafficked of labor and sex trafficked when she started. She is now free. She's single. She does not have a phone that I'm aware of, but I will check. Years trafficked was 15 years. Brendaline was also someone who received the water purification system on Sunday. So that is good news. She always wanted to become a hairdresser. And if I remember correctly, she is actually learning that from, she was at least late last fall through the early part of winter. She might even still be doing it. I don't know, but she was learning hairdressing, being taught that. I don't know what the status is on that currently. Let's see. Yeah, her EI spike from 83 to 106 is really is incredible. Considering, 15 years of being trafficked, she was sexually exploited. And yet, all of that, and she came in with an 83, and scored and normed against 18 plus. And remember, there is no other demographic out there of human trafficked survivors, domestic violence survivors. There isn't any violent crime survivors group population that MHS uses. Are there people in the norm that they are grouped with? Yes. Have they been extrapolated and taken out and as a separate group population? No. There's a lot. So, at some point, maybe, you have to have thousands of people. And maybe at some point, we would be able to do this. And, I'm just going to put that down as a note for myself to check with MHS regarding violent crime survivors, PTSD, human trafficked, etc., as its own group population, I think is really important. So you're interested in her self-perception composite, right? You said.
Yep. So looking at that 119 for self-perception compared to, because we know you said the standard you'd really want to look for is 10 to 15. Thinking there's a pretty big difference between her self-expression, her interpersonal relationships, and then even more so with decision making.
However, if you look at the composite scales, her self-perception over the 5 plus the happiness, you take your lowest, you can look at this two different ways. You can take the lowest, which is 96, take the highest, which is 119. And you could say,
Right.
wow, her self-perception is high. Or you can say, which I did highlight her self-perception, right? But maybe
Mm-hmm.
what I should have done is highlighted her decision making.
Okay.
Perhaps it's her decision making that is low because everything else
I
is in the
see.
hundreds, right?
Right.
So, and if
And
you,
her decision making is the only one that had a subscale go down.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, I mean, problem solving is across the board an issue
Right.
in
And
those,
our whole cohort.
yeah. So maybe her self-perception isn't a concern.
Okay.
Maybe it's not spiked, but let's look in the overview with the other subscales.
Okay.
Her subscales in self-perception are actually balanced. What isn't in her self-expression, what isn't balanced is her independence, which is interesting to me.
Right.
But if you look at her problem solving, independence is self-directed. Making choices or decisions. And if you look at her problem solving, they're both basically the same. I mean, they're within a few points. They're within 5 points of each other. So maybe the issue isn't her self-perception, which is actually amazing, isn't it? Considering everything she's been through. Maybe we need to just look at it in a different way and hone in on the decision making. Although in the interpersonal, what spiked is her social responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't know, is it so? I mean, she went up 29 points.
Mm-hmm.
She went up 18 points in empathy. She went down, I mean, she went way up at midpoint, and then she went down a little.
Yeah.
And so, at the 6 month after postmark, we have to see where she's at. Interpersonal, she actually stayed the same. Now, to my understanding, and I could be wrong because I haven't asked this question, but I don't believe she's in a relationship. With in a romantic type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Her stress tolerance went up 18 points. Look at her flexibility went up 27.
Mm-hmm.
Her optimism went up. Her happiness went up. Self-regard went up. To me, those are all really good things. And it almost looks like, okay, she's got confidence in herself. She has a good sense of self-regard, right? I think she respects herself. She has confidence in herself. She's just unsure maybe on making some decisions or choices or how to solve problems. And, she's still asking for other people's opinions, but it's not really, doesn't seem to affect her sense of self-confidence or self-worth.
Right.
So that's why another reason why I saw this commonality across the board with problem solving, thus the reason for the workshop last Sunday. And we're going to see if that offered any assistance over the next couple of months when we retest in September. But I don't know, just talking about that and looking at it a different way, does that change any part of what, any part of your observation in regards to self-perception, or would you still like to, No, I
mean, I think that does make a lot more sense. Yeah, I would agree. And I think that'll change too after, at the 6 month period, especially because you're doing more work with problem solving. So,
I mean, that's only my hope. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you test it post 6 months, just to see where they're at. That's why I say we need to continue the personal connection, that reach out, that mentoring on some level. Some cohort members need it every so often. Some need it on a more consistent basis. Some, to be honest with you, are good to go. So you just never know who those people are until you post 6 months test.
Right.
So her happiness indicator. So you wonder why we see a drop to 101 for the post EQi. 101. Okay, so I'm not following you here.
Their happiness went from 116 to 101.
Yeah,
from
midpoint.
The mid to
Yeah.
So she's still up from her pre, but I just wonder if that's like more of her balancing herself out, or if there's something that occurred during that 6-month window that we should be aware of, something extrinsic to our cohort.
Well, my observation from looking at these numbers and from just our previous conversation just a few minutes ago, I'm thinking, sometimes some people ask, why do you pull a pre? Because if I hadn't pulled a pre, right, and you looked at, I'm sorry, I apologize, if I didn't pull a mid, and you just looked at the pre and the post, you'd say, wow, look at that, pretty good, right? But I pull a mid so that I can see, what's going on. And then you pull a post to see if something has changed or evened out or whatever. So, yeah, she's got a 116. Now, if you notice, problem solving went up at mid 2 to a 102. And her independence went up to an 87. Right? But then at post, her independence went down to an 84, still up 12 points. Her problem solving actually went down to a 79 and overall down 5 points, which might say to me that she's struggling. At midpoint, she thought she was optimistic. Right? Well, I don't know. Now look at her optimism went down to a 92 at midpoint.
Yes, exactly. So it's hard. That's why I couldn't figure out really what the pattern was there.
So maybe she's happy with herself, right? She's feeling better about herself. She's really understanding the pursuit of her purpose, right? It's solidified. It might have went down to 112 from 119, but her understanding herself went up to 122. I don't really understand why.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was trying to get after, because there wasn't like there. It looks like a pattern, and then you look at the optimism, and you're like, wait.
It could have been just something that she was going through that was just bringing her down. It could have been a temporary situation or something that affected her a week before, a couple of days before. You never want to give the test when someone is obviously in an adverse, like something just happened. You're going to get a fluctuation. But at the same time, you got to take a pre, a mid, and a post. We might have just hit her at a inopportune time. It could just be a fluke. There's a lot of different reasons. All I can think of is that let me see, her reality testing went up. Impulse control went up. Optimism went down. It could.
Yeah, so that's why I made that comment. Like, I wonder if there was some event around the time of the mid, or, within that 6-month window between the mid to the post that we might not be aware of.
Let me just put that down. Midpoint optimism. Okay, so I've added that, and we'll see. I'm trying to think if there was anything. And you could go back to our session at midpoint around there to see if she had anything, to read through, and that might shed some light, right? So midpoint was when? In October.
Yep.
So October. I don't know. I'd have to go back in October. I mean, if you want, I can do that right now, and I can look at our.
Yeah, I'll try to find my comments.
Let me see my September, our September session, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. September. I'm sorry, October. Well, October was the EQi, so let's look at
September.
Yeah, let me see my debrief.
And I'm pulling up my session feedback as well. I usually comment on stuff like that.
Let's see. Okay. Let me just look at my recaps here from her. Share
This is when we had the guest speaker.
Brendaline, where are you? Brenda, my work was fine. I had no. My week was fine. I had no problem. I don't see anything in the session.
Yeah, I only really have comments on Cynthia for that one.
You know, I don't know. We'd have to ask to see if there was something going on. It honestly just could be a fluke.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be. But again, we don't want to assume that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get your stuff up here again. Done. Here you are.
Okay. So I think that's just something to look into. But
you know what I'm going to do? And let me make a note on here. I want to check her answers to questions that directly relate to optimism. Okay, and that's what's going to shed some light as well. So let me check that. I want to put that in a color so that I remember. Okay, and boldface and underline. There we go. So that's going to might shed some light. So that's the other thing. When we just can't figure it out, we can look to the questions and the answers to the questions at hand on the actual EQi. So let me see if that says something, and usually it does. And if you want, I can look that up. Or you want me to wait? I'll wait. You want me to wait?
Yeah, we can wait.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna do that. Looking at the interpersonal composite, true reflection of not only this methodology but also the community and sense of belonging. It sure is. It's amazing, isn't it? It's a testament really to Seraphin, and we have to remember Seraphin has never done this before. She's never taught this curriculum, and it's real. She's amazing. To have the confidence to do this, and it's amazing to me, really. I just want to look at that. Yeah, she went up 17 points. Her social responsibility really is spiked at 119. Am I concerned with that it's a little higher than the other two? I'm not concerned that social responsibility is spiked. I think she really wants to be of value and be helpful, and she wants to be community present, so to speak. It also goes hand in hand with her self-actualization, which is at 122, which is the pursuit of meaning, her self-improvement, also purpose in life. Those two could be somehow connected.
I mean, I think they are, especially also with her being a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that's connected, but that's something we'll look into with our group as a whole and see if we find a pattern.
Her sense of empathy, is still, it might be behind the 119. Same with her interpersonal relationships being a 94. That didn't go up at all. Her empathy went up 18 points, which is fantastic. However, if you look at mid to post, they went down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really understand why, but still, I'm going to I'll table that really until after the 6 month, the post 6 month to see. Her resiliency is profoundly evident in the way she carries herself. Yeah. Yeah. When I look at Brendaline, and I saw her in the beginning, and I saw her, remember, prior to them starting in the cohort, right? Mm-hmm. So I met the group in August or September of 2018. Okay. And Brendaline is not a very expressive person physically.
Right.
Okay. And if I had to pick one person who physically looks the least amount of having a transformation, it would be her. Okay. Right. However, I think she's also very much of an introvert, and she keeps to herself. And I think this is probably a result of being very young and being trafficked at such a young age. She was really told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and she had no voice. Let's face it, for most of her life, she had no voice, no nothing. She was told what to do. And that really does showcase in her pre-score of 72 and 70 in her assertiveness and independence, right? I mean, and yet she ends with, and so her midpoint scores and then being up or down, it just might be this she's just like, she's trying this, she's trying that. You know what I mean? She's making the familiar unfamiliar, the unfamiliar familiar. She's testing the water. She's trying this, she's trying that. Do you know what I mean? Her mid scores could be in some of those subscales just being reflective of her, kind of trying this and trying that. Overall, I mean, she ends up 12 points up on independence, 39 points in her ability to communicate herself, her beliefs and everything in a non-offensive way, and in a constructive way, because, that is up 23 points at 110. So again, she's up 12 points, her independence at 84. It's not surprising. It's actually, I think it's pretty darn good considering for most of her life, she was told what to do, when to do it, why to do it, how to do it,
Especially for 15 years of that, right?
Yeah, and it almost makes sense that her problem solving started at 84 and it went to 79 because, it went to 102. I don't really know. It depends on what kinds of problems she was trying to solve. Maybe up through 6 months, there were things that were easily solvable, or easily finding solutions to when it came to her emotions. And maybe she was doing baby steps. And then at midpoint, she was like, I'm going to take something else on. Mm-hmm. And then she realized, whoa, wait a second. I don't have the skills yet for that kind of challenge. And she backed off a little. And maybe that's why her independence and her problem solving went down. So you see, as you take baby steps, you got to challenge yourself a little more and a little more. And sometimes you got to throw yourself to the wolves in order to see how you react, what you know and what you don't know. And it could be that that's what she's done. And if that's the case, well, my goodness, how courageous and brave from a person with her life experience. I don't know if that's correct, but that could be a reason. That's an observation. And, Seraphin will listen to this video and she'll let me know whether I'm you know, maybe that's the answer. She may say, you know what, and what I do know is that she did start learning how, going to school for a vocation, for a trade, for hairdressing. So she was being challenged in late fall, right? Well, actually, early fall. I apologize. Early fall through the winter. So it could be that she's like, oh man, I don't know. You know, this is harder than I thought.
Right.
You know, so it could have something to do with that.
Yeah, I think this is where the challenge comes in our analysis, because you have, you know, things that are subjective, and then you have the objective things, and trying to really do the analysis so you can show and highlight both of them is going to be tough. But that's all these life things that are happening are a huge component of what we see on our EQi results. So we'll have to find a way to highlight that.
So you do have a question. Is there something particular that could have happened between mid and post? I think we answered that. I think we also need to check in with her, with Brendaline, and see, you know, what was going on there. Let's see. What do you mean by, is there a way we could provide extra support or extra material to focus on this specific composite?
I think it was her interpersonal relationship. I don't even understand what I said there. 1 second.
So under interpersonal relationships. Are you saying like, is there like a workshop we could do on this, or?
I think I meant extra support as a group. So I think this is, maybe I was trying to ask like how she communicates with the group, if she has somebody in the group that she can go to if she's struggling with something. Like, I think you can see the sense of community in other composites and other subscales, but I think with her interpersonal relationships, I don't know if she feels like there's a balance, like if she's able to help the community versus if she's able to rely on them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know, her empathy score went up. She may be feeling here that, you know, I'm not getting anything back.
Right, and that's what I was wondering. I think that's what I was trying to say. Like, I don't know if she finds that to be mutually beneficial. It's like evident that she finds a sense of comfort within the cohort and the environment that Seraphin has created. But I wonder if we asked her, who's your person that you go to when you are struggling with something, if she could name somebody.
Okay. I'm just writing this down. Okay. Yep.
And as for the happiness indicator, I think we kind of discussed that we need to just kind of talk to her about what may have happened.
Yeah. You know, it could be that, you know, she was starting her vocation, her trade, and she was making her happy. She could see the light at the end of the tunnel. At the same time, it was challenging for her, right? And then at the post, maybe she was just settling in. I don't know. We'll definitely have to check about the happiness score. Okay, so we'll check on that. See if Seraphin can shed some light on that. Yeah. It showed, so her physical and psychological health. So if we go from pre to post, you know, I didn't do mid on their psychological or physical health. I really, because I popped this chart in really later. I hadn't looked at this prior to this cohort in any of my previous years of dealing with cohorts. And this was directly because of the question from your presentation. So from your conference. So that was definitely probably placed, strategically
Right.
by the good man upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So her physical health, 13.6 points increase. If you add
Mm-hmm.
happiness to the subscale, it actually goes down 1 point.
Right.
Interesting, isn't it? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. I don't even understand why. Well, it's why, because her problem solving went down.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And her emotional self awareness went down a little bit. So you know what? We'll look at this again at post 6 months and see if anything
Mm-hmm.
changes. Her psychological health went up 16 points, and then if we add optimism and happiness,
It goes down.
it actually goes down. A
Yeah.
little over 12 points,
Mm-hmm.
which I just don't even understand.
Right. And so I think that was my comment for the happiness indicator, because it's playing a big role in, I feel like, changing. It makes a big difference in her results, and it doesn't for a lot of the cohort members. But
I'm gonna check my formulas
okay.
in the physical and psychological charts across the board.
All right.
Maybe there's something I did that was wrong, that was incorrect. This
Right.
is the sum of D22 minus B22, D24. Oh, there we go. Yeah, minus, that's why. Okay. No, sorry. D22, D32. Yeah. Interesting. I'll check that out.
Okay.
And who knows? Maybe I did something funky with that. Overall, she's doing good.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Seraphin asked all of the cohort members in the post EQi whether they felt that their physical health
Mm-hmm.
and then their psychological health was the same, better, or worse, and they all across the board said they felt it was better.
Okay.
So all of the charts, these charts on this also validated the fact that they felt better. So
Okay.
none of them did worse, according to
Okay.
these the numbers and the subscales. And that's it, I guess, for Brendaline. On your comments, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Let me close this out.